Hey, we're live. So thanks for everyone for coming to today's Node.js Community Committee meeting. We are, well, let's do roll call first, like we normally do. Let's try to, we have 14 people in today, so let's try to cut this down a bit. My name's Tierney Siren. I'm co-chair of the Community Committee, and I work at NodeSource. Ben, you're up next.
Hey, I'm Ben. I am in Portland, Oregon, and I am an observer, hoping to be a member soon, and working on internationalization stuff currently here, and excited to continue on and do awesome stuff.
Awesome. Michael?
I'm Michael Dawson, ComCom member and TSC chair.
Okay, awesome. Olivia?
I'm Olivia. I'm very sick and also a ComCom member, and my doorbell just rang, so excuse me.
Dan?
Hi, Dan Shaw. Node.js Large and observer here at the ComCom and organizer of the user feedback initiative.
Tracy?
Hi, Tracy Hines here, community committee member, organizer of random things within the repos, moderation team member.
Awesome. Adam?
Hey, I'm Adam in San Francisco. I'm an observer.
Awesome. Ahman?
I'm currently starting with the mentorship program, and I'm excited.
Awesome. Let's see here. The list is changing up and down. Jem?
Hey, I'm Jem, based in Victoria, BC, Canada, here as an observer.
Awesome. Manil?
Hey, I'm Manil. I'm based in Vancouver. I'm here as an observer too.
Awesome. Mark?
I'm Mark Hinkle. I am the executive director of the Node.js Foundation, and I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I am an observer.
Awesome. Rachel, if you can talk.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I am the ComCom co-chair. I work at Microsoft, and I live in Brooklyn.
Awesome. Ben?
Hi, I'm Ben Thierry. I'm a ComCom observer and developer currently in Paris, France.
Great. Toby?
I'm Toby Farley. I'm in Colorado, and I'm an observer.
Awesome. And Zibby?
I'm Zibby. I work at the Node.js Foundations on PR and communications, and I help with the Node.js collection, and I'm just here on as an observer.
Awesome. Okay, so today's agenda is in issue 213. I don't know if everyone can see it, so I'll post it again. I don't know how long it keeps the chat for, but that's today's issue, and the agenda is in there. We have quite a few items, so I'd like to try to push through these moderately quickly. So first on the agenda is the charter expectations and responsibilities of the Enterprise Advisory Group. This has had quite a bit of discussion, including being presented in the TSC yesterday. I believe I've been the blocker on it. I personally have been the blocker on it for a while. There was quite a bit of discussion, further discussion yesterday, but since this does fall under the ComCom, we have to kind of approve this. So, you know, we have to just make the decision and help this through as it goes. So I definitely like everyone to go through and review this and review the thread. It's pretty lengthy, but if you have time or interest, it would be really helpful. And there are, you know, some active steps remaining. But I would like to ask Dan if he's available to do it or willing to do it right now to just give an explanation of what it is, because I don't think it's actually been formally like presented to the ComCom yet.
Great. So Tierney, before I dive into that, I just want to remind you, we had proposed having the check-ins from the various strategic initiatives at the beginning. We got a lot on our agenda, so I propose that we don't go there, but just a reminder for next time.
Thank you.
Okay. So the Enterprise Advisory Group, James Snell, at the time chairing the TSC, probably June-ish, reached out last year to see if I would be interested in helping him bring together a group of individuals who had big enough deployments where as the technical steering body was looking at making big changes like ES modules, and we're evaluating making changes to the platform. Having a group of individuals who would be primed and ready and engaged to be able to provide that feedback in a meaningful way to the TSC. So, after getting the user feedback off the ground, we'd ping folks, and folks were finally ready to hey, let's do this. So we held sort of the initial introductory session with folks in the advisory group. All of these folks are senior management level. They don't spend their time in GitHub. So in laying this out, there's a lot of proxying to help those individuals engage in our GitHub process. The Enterprise Advisory Group is the first attempt to put down into words a definition of what this charter could look like. Under the user feedback and therefore under the community committee. It has gotten a lot of resistance and expression of concern, and who is accountable to whom, and much of that concern is ahead of any actual activity or reality. We're at a point in the project, the initiative, where we're just trying to define what it looks like, and then begin to operate. There's no authority, there's no action, because we're just trying to land the plane.
So I think just looking at this pull request, Dan, yeah, it's a lot of, there's a lot of suggestions.
Yes. And I've responded to a lot of them.
Yeah. So I think what we probably, to me here, the next step is I think making sure, is there any acknowledgement that this falls in? Okay, yeah, so it is okay, so you mentioned the end user, the feedback initiative, which is great, because I think that that's really important to clarify. That, the Enterprise Advisory Group is just one, part of the strategy of the user feedback initiative, because we have so many user types. Right. It's an important one that's sort of not been spoken to, I think, on the project side as much. And that said, because I do think I echo some of the concerns, but I think from what I'm seeing is we probably need to go, because there's so much noise, it's relevant noise, noise in the pull request. I think we need to sort of call out the folks who have put in suggestions, see if they're at a point where they think that it's okay. I know that there's been some recent, there's activity from yesterday on there. But I think it's definitely tightened up quite a bit. And what I think the final piece for me that I'd be okay with plus wanting this is having some sort, literally a tiny bit of language. We have very similar in the TSC as well as the ComCom governance, which is around company representation. So y'all have a great list of companies who have signed on to help. But having some sort of governance in there is really important, I think, at this point in Node. And I think we've all seen this even at the board level where to maintain trust so that we don't, it sort of doesn't fall on you to say, it's just protected in there already in the charter to say, no more than a quarter of the people who are actually like voting members of this group or whatever are from a single company, that sort of thing. Because then it's much harder for people to say things like, oh, well, it's being heavily driven by one group or another when there's like an active list of a number of companies that are, attending regularly.
Great.
So I think that that's the last piece that I would like to see is sort of just that assurance in the charter of the governance, just similar to what we've already been doing.
Great. Yeah, in this situation, we don't really have any expectation in the near term to be voting, but I'm happy to sort of adopt that terminology in the anticipation of some event where we would be doing things like adding new members and stuff like that. I guess
Well, and I think I use the example of voting, but the representation
decision making.
Active, because it's sort of like we all know that like. To a certain extent, unfortunately, open source is who shows up and does the work.
Right.
We always have to play that balance, especially in the project where like we have so many wonderful people who have the energy to do the work. We just want to make sure that like people aren't spreading fear and having concern over there being an imbalance there. And especially because the Enterprise Advisory Group focus that historically has been a problem, I think, among companies in Node. And it would be great just for people to we just make sure that we handle that from the get-go. So it's much harder to question that, along the way.
And I'd like to add to that. I did leave a review comment of something, one of the things that I'd like to see, or the big thing that I'd like to see for this to move forward, which is just adding in a small section about, since this doesn't all live in GitHub, like that's kind of the part of the point of it is that it doesn't live in GitHub. And a lot of our processes are built around GitHub and like having accountability that way. Just that, accountability made, or not accountability, but contents and communications and stuff be able to be engaged by the TSC, the ComCom, and the moderation team. The moderation team, obviously, for that reason. But make this entirely transparent and enable each of the groups at the top level, the ones that are benefiting from this and trying to engage with it, to fully participate and have that full context. That's generally just one of my asks. And then I do think we should probably try to figure out something around where this falls, because it does seem like one of the big confusion points that I've seen, at least, is it's under the user feedback initiative, but like the way our org is set up, like a group can't be under an initiative and be like chartered, because charter is like is having a charter is more privileged than being in an initiative. So that's like a weird structure of like having a more privileged thing under a less privileged thing under the ComCom. And that even in the discussions that were happening yesterday around it, it did seem like there was confusion about whether it was a working group or not, where it previously been stated it wasn't, and then people are saying it is. So I think we really need to kind of make sure that part of it is clear, just for everyone's understanding.
So thank you, Tony. Something on the working group versus initiative. We don't have anything really well documented that is not working group, right? The reason why I started the user feedback as an initiative was because as an observer and not a member of the community committee, but volunteering to get that process kicked off. Now that we're landing the concept of working groups, I do think that the user feedback group could potentially be a working group. I would say that the quote unquote charter, or the definition, when I'm using charter in defining a repo, I'm often using just charter in the terms of this is the definition of the thing, right? Not in the legal sense, right? We have to define our expectations, and excuse me if I'm being pedantic. I think that is a correct definition of chartering. If this needs to turn into a feedback, into an initiative like user feedback, that's the only one I did. I did the best I could, and it too uses the word charter in its definition of itself.
I think in this case, looking at the README, it's not stating that it's a group, a working group or anything like that. But I don't know. I mean, on the TSC side, we've kind of fallen back to working groups and teams. And so there are a number of things which are teams, but not working groups. So I don't know if it helps to call it the Enterprise Advisory Team to avoid that. Because the distinction being that a group has been delegated formal authority for something.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the ask here, right? If it's just basically, we want to get together as a group, that group still reports back up through the community committee. Then that's, it's just to make sure that that's clear and we don't confuse anybody through the terminology is the only issue I see.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do want to time check this because we do have a lot of things.
Yeah.
But Rachel White did have a question. Are the senior managers, I just do want to make sure I'm kind of checking Dan. She asked, are the senior management people technical or non-technical or both?
I was mostly wondering just from a support standpoint to I guess it's just a long-term type of question. What is the level of commitment that the members of the Node organization are going to be supplying, pretty much?
Well, okay, those are very different questions. The level of commitment that the organization is going to provide, we are going to meet with them regularly. And I think that is the depth of the commitment that we guarantee, that we'll organize regular meetings. And then in those meetings, we will seek to invite TSC members and ComCom members and engage with that group. But that's the only sort of level of commitment that we offer to this team or group. Does that make sense, Rachel? Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. I'm going to time box that. We need to move on to another issue. Apologies. So yeah, be sure to check out the issue. I have the link in the Zoom chat for members, and you can all kind of check it out there. It's Enterprise Advisor Group, pull request number 5. Okay. So.
Can I say something really quick, and I'll be brief as I can. I just wanted to, following the path of least surprise and letting folks know, we are planning on holding a meeting just to keep the momentum, keep these folks engaged sometime this month. I'm not sure whether to publish the minutes since folks were concerned about those last time. I prefer to, but as we're bashing this out, I would prefer to keep this group engaged so we don't lose the momentum and end up losing this useful group of people.
I guess a good ask with that is publish the minutes and also have an open invitation to the ComCom and create an issue in the ComCom repo to invite members, just so you're both mentioning and making it very obvious that it's there. Have an invitation in the ComCom repo. I think that's a good approach.
And not only that, if this is something that we're if to be quite fair, if we're being one of the blockers, we should probably ask as an action item from this meeting for someone from the member group to attend. Not just have an open invite, but I think it's fair for us to have that sense of responsibility. Someone should be there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So moving on to the next issue, Doc update GitHub org management policy to reflect actual practice. Michael, do you have more context on this? I have a little bit, but I feel like you probably have a little bit more.
So, I mean, the sort of background on that is that a while back, the governance was changed so that it, defined who would be organization owners within the community. It limited it as the chairs of the TSC and ComCom and director representatives, along with a couple of foundation representatives. That actually was never enacted. So we basically stuck with what we had before, which was, the TSC members being the org owners. And Rich, rightly pointed out, well, wait a sec, we just, we may have landed this, but we've never respected it. So let's actually document what the actual case is. And the suggestion was to revert back to what it was before, which was basically just the TSC members. Some discussion. I ended up talking it over with Rich, and pushed on a commit that changes it to be the TC members plus the ComCom chairs. My personal feeling is that we made that commitment, so we should follow through on that. And I think we discussed it in the TSC meeting earlier this week. I haven't seen, there wasn't any objection to that discussed there, and we basically said go object in the issue. And unless that happens, we're going to make that the case by this week, and then land the document so that we are consistent. The remaining kind of issues would be should we be adding representatives from the foundation, which was the suggestion in the previous version that had landed, and just describing the rationale for that, as well as it's still not all ComCom members, all TSC members. There has been some discussion in terms of there's sort of a differing level of I don't know what to exactly call it, but like in the ComCom, if you participate in the meetings, you basically become a member, and so there may be a large number different. So there's still some issues to discuss on there, whether it makes sense to say like just include all ComCom members, or
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to comment on this again.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
So to be, there are so many legitimate reasons why I understand that the entire TSC membership, like committee, has access and has historically owned the GitHub org. There are too many repos under the purview of the community committee at this point in order for us to do our jobs. If only the two chairs are able to have access.
Yeah.
I don't really understand. To be quite honest, to me, what that feels like is folks feeling like the vast majority of the project as it exists in GitHub is code. And that makes sense for the TSC members to have that access. Now, the community committee members are, as we see here, they're moving very quickly and growing very quickly. And need more than just our two chairs as admins to be able to do work. If there's an onboarding process in order to like build that trust, then I'm very open to that. Any sort of training that says like security-wise, this is the level of responsibility you're carrying. This is a very important thing. Like don't mess it up or else we will remove you. But I don't think that there's enough justification for the rest of the community committee to not have that level of access.
I'm in agreement that it was just an interim step to add the chairs, and I agree. Like part of the reason that we didn't implement what was written down before is because it would have removed access for the rest of the TSC members, and we've generally worked in the project with we want to give whatever privileges you need to get your job done. So I think the next step is to say, once that lands, at least there's some representation. So we've made it at least a little bit better than it is today. And then the next step is to discuss what's right overall. Like the right answer may be that, it's based on need somehow, or like you said, maybe there's some training or whatever, but some way where we figure out who the right set of people to have access is, and that should be based on making sure everybody can do what they need to do efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with this. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want to stall this longer because we have a lot. But
I would
like,
like, I'll plus, okay, then I'll plus one this doc, and then, is there someone working on a next?
I
instead
think
of
it's like we want to get this landed,
Okay.
and then immediately we should open a new PR that says this is what we think it should be, or for an issue for discussion or something like that.
I think there needs to be a PR. This has been discussed in multiple issues and PRs over the past year, and also for moderation. And this is,
I think the next one in my mind would be a PR focused on moderation to say, well, like we need to give the moderation team members access because there's a clear need. I believe we also did discuss that in the TSC meeting. Again, nobody voiced opposition there to giving the moderation team members access. And we kind of painted it as that's, jump into the issue that was discussing the moderation need.
Yeah.
Because that would be the next one we were going to push on. So yeah, I think the next PR in my mind is a PR that says add in the moderation team members and, get that landed. And then, the one after that would be like, okay, now let's see what else, extending to the rest of ComCom or rearranging so that it's like a subset of ComCom, some subset of TSC, whatever makes sense based on the day-to-day need, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I want to time check this because we do have a lot of things.
I'm gonna write in here that nobody from the ComCom objected, and that we can land this in the issue.
Yeah. Does anyone object? Members?
Okay. Cool.
Yep. There you go. Okay. So next issue to discuss. Not all members of the GitHub org are Not all members of the GitHub org are members of the members team. That's a mouthful. So it looked like I believe this has been resolved to some extent. Michael, can you give a brief overview of this?
Okay, I'm just taking a quick reading.
Yeah, it's 284. It seems like for the most part, it's just basically we were aligning the different parts of the ComCom or of the membership team with the actual members and active people. So stripping away people who are just a member of the members group.
Yeah.
If I can say members enough. So, and then there's additional points that I think this is mostly what I wanted to discuss was re-adding some additional points that help kind of push this along is re-adding people is not difficult. One thing that the TSC and the project is pushing on right now is forcing two-factor authentication for all members. That's just a general security thing that people should be doing. But specifically, if you have any kind of write access to a Node.js repo, that's something that has been discussed and I believe we're pushing along. And this helps kind of push that story along a bit further. And then membership in members gives access to the private moderation repo, which, if you're not actually active in the project, could be an issue. So those are generally the points. And then that are the positives, like points in favor, to copy what Rich said. So it would be helpful if we could get ComCom a read-through of this. It generally looks good to me. I don't have an issue. And I know Olivia commented, but it would be helpful if we could get more ComCom representation in this and get feedback from us. I don't necessarily know if there's going to be anything negative, but even just plus ones will be helpful.
Yeah, I think the main thing is that it's kind of a cleanup. The original issue was, hey, we're not in sync. It turned out that, Michael Rogers used to run a script which kept us in sync. So it's partially if we can figure out a better way to keep it in sync. And then, I think Rich chimed in with he is on a drive to make things more consistent, make sure things are up to date. So if we have people who aren't in teams, they were likely added because they were in a team at some point, and so he's going through and making sure we remove people as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's mostly just a heads up one, and then we'd like to get ComCom feedback on that. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add about that issue? No? Okay. Moving on to the next one, add website redesign as an initiative. So this is one we'll probably need a vote on. But this is adding a PR from Olivia. Do you want to run through it real quick, Olivia?
Yeah, sure. So this stems from a discussion we've been having for a long time, is to finally redesign the official Node.js website. We have a thread on this in the Node.js.org repo, issue number 1534, if anyone wants to read through it. Basically, we came to the conclusion that we're going to start a strategic initiative that'll sort of scale this so we don't lose speed, so that's, it's cleared on an organizational level. And yeah, this is a pull request to add this. What we would need is ideally a repository to coordinate this, and also GitHub team. But I think that's everything.
Okay.
So if we can maybe facilitate that, that would be cool.
Yeah, so I can try to help. I guess I can't create. Well, no, I can create repos. I don't know if I can create teams. Michael, I might reach out to you.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
But I would like to ask, because I know I talked a little bit about this with Tracy a while ago. But is Mark still on the line? He is. So if we were to go the route of professionally getting a design, like a paid design, what would there be any barriers for that, Mark? Requesting funds from the foundation?
No, I mean, the key is that the barrier is you just have to send it to me first, and then I'll tell you if it needs to go by the board or not. Because we have some leeway in community programs and such. And I'll just have to
okay.
Yeah, so Tony, you just have to write. You just have to build a proposal, right? So someone would probably need to represent it. You of course you can talk to Mark about it, and then sort of having a written statement of justifications for the cost, right, or the estimate from whoever would be doing the work.
Yeah. Okay. And we have vendors already that we work with. So if you set a statement of work that we could give to the design firm that we're using, and we could use another one, but it's just easier if I already have a relationship.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So I know I'm just seeing that a couple of people have done this already, but I think it's posted in the chat if anyone wants to review the pull request and approve it, so we can get this merged pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Awesome. Yeah, so this will become an official initiative of the ComCom once this PR is merged. So unless there is -1s, I don't think we have to have a vote on it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's not in our governance thing anyways, since it's something that was recently amended.
William, am I right on that? That if there's general consensus, we don't have to have a vote?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so that's done. So Ben requested that I add in the internationalization and localization working groups, the agenda item after the website redesign stuff, because they're kind of closely related. So Ben, do you want to give an update on that?
Yeah, definitely. So a group of us met on Tuesday and came to the consensus on a current direction for this working group, a technical solution that we think is appropriate, and everything for internationalization. I don't know if people saw the drive-by comment that Zeke left on the localization issue, but we think that the Electron project has come up with a super elegant solution, and we like it and think it would be appropriate in our case. So I have a little chart that I made here. I'm going to post into the chat. If y'all would take a look at that to get sort of a new direction on the way I think we can do this as a technical solution. I think there was a lot of back and forth with Node internationalization groups and landing stuff into the Node project. And it looked like to me that it was time consuming, and there was a lot of conversation that needed to happen around that. I think automation is going to be really good for us. So if we can create our translation base with the existing Node internationalization groups and independent translators. And if ever needed in a dire situation, which I doubt will happen, hired translators, if we can essentially like create our translation base and then have those people work inside of Crowdin localization projects. Crowdin is amazing. It abstracts the process for people, for translators from GitHub, so they're not dealing with any complexities within the workflow that we're already used to in GitHub, but they're able to just clearly see a list of the untranslated documents on the left and the percentage of translation that exists in ongoing translation of documents on the right. I can, here's what it looks like for Electron. I'll post that in the chat as well. So there's that. It's the greatest thing about this is, yeah, like Git localize does something similar. However, Crowdin has automated PR and updates. So our PRs and updates. So like it's, whenever an update to a document happens, we'll be able to have that go to a Node internationalization module repo. This is like the coolest thing, I think, and I'm going to post this in the chat too. So Electron has this internationalization module where they basically populate the whole thing with every translation of every language, and that you just import that into, we would do something similar, import that into Node.js itself, and be able to use that where we need, like for our documentation, and that sort of thing, documentation or site, all those types of things. So I think this is a great way to go. And whenever something is not translated within a given localization or language, it should just gracefully fall back to English on the site or in the documentation, wherever it's being used. So I think the combination between Crowdin and a internationalization module repo is powerful and will allow us to just kind of streamline this process. And I think that is a good way to go. So yeah, what we're going to be working closely with the site refactor to ensure this is kind of a first-class citizen relationship.
Perfect.
Yeah, we need to follow the general timeline with y'all.
Yeah. I'll definitely mark this down, and if we do organize the first meeting, I'll bring it up.
Great, awesome. Yeah, I'd love to be in on those meetings, so I can talk to you about that then.
Perfect.
And we're going to, so there's that, and then I think the general help and the big things that we're going to need are reaching out to the existing internationalization groups and asking for translation help. We're probably going to need to formulate some kind of ongoing request for volunteer translators. And I don't know exactly what that might look like, if we're going to put it out on Twitter or whatever. But we're going to have to kind of continue to, ask people to help us with that in one way or another. But the biggest one, I think the biggest one is developing the module so we can begin the process of integrating with Node. So I've got a internationalization working group MVP repo thing that I'm almost done with, and a blog that I'm almost done with, and I'll have that coming out by the end of the week for y'all. And I will need somebody to review that and hopefully pull that into ComCom. And I think that's about it for now.
One quick question I had was, this is longer term, but we're doing a bunch of work in core to sort of extract our error messages. Is the same approach applicable to getting those translated when we get to that point?
Sorry, can you restate that question, please?
So we have a bunch of error messages in Node Core, and they used to be sort of inline, but we're pulling them all out into a separate file.
Right.
That's sort of a first step. Once they're there, we can then think about, well, how do we actually let these be translated?
Right.
And so I was just wondering if the same sort of the same whatever it's called, the crowdsource Crowd-in,
Yeah,
you know,
Crowd-in, yeah.
we use the same approach to get those translated as well.
Oh, sure. I mean, as long as it's a document, as long as you have a directory tree structure, and you're able to, populate have an available org or repo in Crowd-in, you can have, anything is translatable as long as it's a viewable document, because it literally it cleanly separates that for the translators. So I wouldn't see there being any problem with being able to translate error messages.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
And once you set up this repo, like basically anybody can go in and start to contribute translations?
Yeah. Well, so the thing is, the translators go directly to Crowd-in, so they don't have anything to do with the repo.
Right.
So there just needs to be a clean separation between people who are like, oh yeah, I want to help out and I'm a translator, and then they don't need to have anything to do with GitHub itself. So yeah, basically we send all our translators to Crowd-in, and then the module is strictly a conversation between the working group and Node core.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
I have another question. What have you discussed what to do with the sort of legacy internationalization teams, people, and repositories?
Yeah, so I think that's another great thing for ComCom. ComCom to do here, I don't want to just do something where we we're like, hey, thanks for being awesome. We're going a different direction now. So I don't want to do that. What I'd like to do is probably send some kind of general email or something to whoever we can that represents those groups, and saying y'all are awesome. We appreciate all of your contribution, and we want to invite you to help us out with the ongoing work that you've been doing. I feel like it might be, there's probably crossover text for a lot of people, in localization groups, to be able to more or less copy the work that they did and integrate it into Crowd-in, So I don't think it's going to be, I just think getting those people are the first priority. These groups, requesting help from them, saying you're awesome, thank you for doing this. We think this, presenting the same structure that I just did to everyone now, and saying we'd love for you to join us.
I might say it instead of we'd love you to join us, is I'd be asking do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this is a good way? If they say yes, then it's okay, let's move on this together, as opposed to the sort of, do you want to join us, sort of makes it well, if you say no, then right.
Oh, right. Yeah. In no way do I mean to indicate exclusion, and this is a, take it or leave it kind of thing. So yeah, that's definitely a great point. And it would be good to continue a conversation with those localization groups, to sort of see if they agree with this general structure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically, if they all say, hey, that looks great, then perfect. But get their feedback on it.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, cool.
I'd like to time box this. This is a great thing. I'm super excited for this. So yeah, this is really awesome.
Yeah, I'm also gonna drop out now.
Okay.
Bye, Olivia.
Bye.
Have a good day.
How do I drop out? Where's the button? Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay. Bye.
Bye. So we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things on the agenda. I don't think we can get through 5 things in 10 minutes. We should probably select one at least. I think, well,
mentorship,
yes. We need to get to mentorship, and also the documentation group or diagnostics WG has been very patient with us in the discussion. So I'm just going to drop that issue in. We don't have. I don't think we have time to fully discuss it. But basically, they've requested that we have technical editors come help them, and their latest comments were from an hour ago. It was basically this issue was opened as a specific example, but more generally can be framed as a recruiting problem. How does a group with a tech writing / documentation background discover opportunities like this and get involved? IMO, from the ComCom perspective, this is the thing to focus on. It aligns nicely with ComCom goals of increasing participation, increasing contributions from diverse background of skill set talents. It also aligns nicely with other initiatives like number 203, which is, I don't know which one that is off the top of my head, but if recruiting is a high priority, how does a website redesign accommodate it? Gotcha, so that's the PR that Olivia submitted. So
website.
Yes, the website initiative. So yeah, this is something we should try to engage with, and I'll leave it at that because we don't have time. But I do want to get to the mentorship. So Ahmad, do you have an update on this? Do you want to present this?
Yeah, sure. So I linked the issue in the chat. So I just thought this is my thought process of what I need to do next. Basically, the mentorship program is now part of Node.js. So I thought that all the next issues are going to be opened in that repo, not in the ComCom. So I'm not sure if that's the correct thing or not, but I don't want to keep opening issues unrelated to the ComCom directly. So maybe we have to open all the issues related to the mentorship program in that repo.
That makes sense to me.
Yep.
Perfect. So make sure to watch the repo and everyone interested. The second thing, I'm not sure if we should have a team for this initiative under Node, or it should stay under the ComCom, or what exactly regarding the teams.
Yeah, I don't know if this will fall under Node or fall under admin, or sorry, ComCom or fall under admin. Probably ComCom. That's the discussions that have been had previously. I'm not sure on that though. I need to go research that. But it does need to. Oh, good. You have code of conduct contributing all that stuff. Great. Yeah. So that's probably something we should discuss. Is there an issue in the admin repo already, or was that recently closed?
I believe it's recently closed.
Okay. Yeah, we should try to figure that out. Does anyone have comments on that of where this should go?
I think it fits under the ComCom, and I don't hear anybody else on the TSC side. Like, I'd added it to the agenda, as I think I had an action to a while back, and I was finally at a meeting, so I basically just gave the FYI that it was starting up and people should go take a look. But I didn't really hear anybody saying, "Hey, we should be leading." Well, I did not hear that anybody there stepped up and said we should be leading should be leading it, or that they wanted to be a leader. I guess what I'm saying is I think it going under the ComCom fits with what my expectation would be, and kind of where we've got people interested to drive it so far.
Okay. That's good.
And I think it's going to make it simpler too.
Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of, making sure that when it gets rolled out, we pull in people from, the technical TSC side if we need help to get mentorship going for core or for the other things that, we might need help on that front from.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is the second point, which is kicking off the mentorship program. So these are the points I thought we have to discuss. Basically, I opened an issue to discuss the process and make sure that it's open for everyone for discussion just before we start. I opened an issue. Here's the link in the chat. Yeah, so basically the process with the diagram at the bottom of the comments. I see Jasnil said that the initial review on that looks solid enough to start. So I believe it's fine. The second point is about the Slack channel, because I thought in the program that we have to open a Slack channel to facilitate and make it easier for people to join and see the movement. So maybe I'm not sure who should open the Slack channel or what exactly about that.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. We probably have, a lot of people here have a context on it. So Slack teams have been something we've consistently discussed as a part of the project, and it's generally been Ant. I think we're in a better position to start assessing that again, especially with now that there is a moderation team that operates in Slack. And there is also the Node Together project, which has its own Slack that's a core part of the project. We probably need to assess that, at least having a policy for that under the ComCom, not necessarily an official one, like an official Node.js Slack, but we should probably have some kind of policy for that in the ComCom. Does anyone else have thoughts on that? Positive or negative?
Yeah, I guess in the past I'd heard the concern was moderation. I mean, I think we have the IRC, so there's always been the discussion of, well, whether IRC is good enough or whether Slack's good enough or whether some other alternative is good enough.
I guess with the moderation team, that does at least get slightly alleviated, especially since there is a moderation team Slack. But I don't know.
They're already using Slack, right?
Oh yeah, we're already using Slack. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if it would just be like, hey, we'd like to set up a Slack for this mentorship program, moderation team. Do you have any concerns over that?
Okay, so the next step with the Slack channel is opening an issue to the
community.
Oh, another issue. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
I want to say that there is a very popular Slack option out there for the Node community. It's if you go to nodeslackers.com. It currently has 3,600 people that are already there. So people are free to join, free to create rooms or whatever they're called, channels, and just use it. It's not an official Node Foundation sponsored thing, but it's there and it's working. A lot of people using it.
And I guess the only concern there would be that this is an official project, like the mentorship project, like program is an official thing. And so if we were to use, I don't know if you're suggesting that we use it for that. That's what I took.
So in the discussions that we had last year around like what are the official communication mediums, like communities for Node, the Slack and IRC stuff came up, and I think the result of that discussion was we just need to come up with a minimum set of guidelines, and that should probably be an issue that like crosses, maybe the admin repo and moderation team, so that TSC and ComCom can weigh in, but like there just needs to be some minimal things there, right? Like the ability, the code of conduct, that you have that in a public place that everyone can see that they need to abide by it, and then enforcing it. So they just need to know how to enforce it. And I know that the organizers of the Slack that Will mentioned are happy to do that. We've just never gone through the process of like setting up that official sanction.
Right. I also want to notice that IRC is not an official channel either.
Right.
Unless it's Node Dev, that one is apparently, but it's moderated in the same way.
Yeah. So we should probably document those too, because like I don't think Node Dev is, maybe it's mentioned or not mentioned in the same way for reasons that it doesn't flood volume-wise.
If I may just 1 second. As a comparison, there's a guitar for Node.js Node, which, if I'm correct, is generated by Gitter automatically for each repository. It's quite huge. There are hundreds, sometimes thousands of questions per day on this, and it's not moderated. So any Slack could be moderated by the ComCom. We have to have a huge team to moderate it and make sure everything goes well, in my opinion.
We couldn't hear you super well, Ben. Could you link to what you were talking about?
Yeah, sure. I linked this ASAP.
So generally speaking, with moderation practices, we try to have people who are a part of like the existing group have someone from that group sort of take on that instead of inserting someone from outside, because that tends to end up having sort of a conflict between like, you know, like you may not know the people in the group and you may not know the sort of, yeah, I don't want to say the culture, but people end up trusting people who have already been there and are sort of seen as like the leaders of the crew instead of like inserting a moderator from ComCom potentially.
Yeah.
So, Ahmed, we've gone out into the implementation detail of how to go and engage with potential mentees and potential sort of broad communities. I'd like to suggest that maybe there are a couple really important things that you want to consider before you sort of open yourself up to that work. First is team building. We've landed the plane in terms of getting the mentorship initiative inside the project. Bravo, well done. Now, who are the individuals that are going to join that team and work with you to build out the mentors. And then I would say that team, their next step is essentially find the next team is the mentors. Who are the individuals that are interested and available to come and mentor, and then serving the mentees.
Sure. So basically for the mentors, we're gonna need to talk with the Node project and other interested projects to start the program with them. Basically the question, or which team should it be under? So basically, I'm starting this mentorship program thing, gathering resources. But yeah, definitely we need other people to join in and help me out with that. To start, we need a team to start communicating with other teams.
Schedule regular meetings.
Yeah, things like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm happy to volunteer to help out there. It'd be great to have someone else from the ComCom also join as well.
Cool. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. So we are at time. We're a little bit over. We do have a private session, or we do have a request for a private session. So I'm going to end the stream. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you in another 2 weeks.
Bye.
Woohoo!
Thank you. Bye.